Welcome to this presentation on SailGP, which is a brand new sailing circuit with different events around the world. So first of all, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Cyrille Douillet, and this is David Ray. I'm the co-founder of a company called K&D Sailing Performance, and that's a company who's dedicated to performance optimization for racing yachts. Now, last year in 2019, David and I were both hired by teams of this SailGP circuit. I was with Team China at the time, and David was with the French. And we were hired to do some number crunching in sailing. What we discovered there was, to some extent, what you could call some kind of revolution in the world of sailing, which is often seen as quite conservative. So we would really like to share this experience with you and hopefully get you as excited as we are about the circuit.
So I had the opportunity as a kid to pick up sailing, and I fell in love with the sport straight away. Every weekend I'll go and compete, train with my mates. It was great fun. However, my parents, they had to stand around for hours on the shore, didn't know what was happening in that cloud of white dots on the distance. They did not have that much of a great time. So that's a bit of the experience of watching sailing. You have a fleet of boats, 10 to 20 kilometers an hour speed, not impressive. They're fighting for small speed differences no one can see from the shore. And our races, and if you don't even know the sport, you have no clue where they're going. Who's winning? On the boat, though, it's amazing. You have tactical and strategic games to play, wind variations. You always have to keep on top, but none of that information is sent to the viewers to make a pleasant experience.
And the team Japan are in the middle. France are going to get a beauty, I think. Robertson in the China team, they have got a few start as well. Australia off, Shirley, how about that?
Billy Bison sending it there, clear start. Look at the Japanese, I think they're nursing some gears. You don't normally see them.
Have a go at the speed. 43 knots these guys are doing. Oh, France have just had a big moment. Australia and China. This is so loose, you'll say. These guys are just complete survival.
Sinon on va péter le bateau.
All about this fairway, and there's Australia trying to get it in. Will they hold it off? You've got to have a look at the sea state here. It is so big. Oh, the USA are in. Are they going to survive? I don't think they are. Yes, they have. Good job by the USA to hold that.
On reste bas, on reste bas.
The USA still not out of this yet. They've got to try and stop it. Looks like they're gone. No, the tip of the wing is in the water.
So I don't know if we need to add so many comments. I mean, this circuit is really awesome. I hope you felt that way too, watching those images. And we think it's actually much more approachable for non-sailing people. The spectacle is pretty cool. So just a word on this circuit. It started last year in 2019. So this year there's going to be 7 teams representing 7 nationalities. David with the French. I'll be working with the Spanish team this year. In each of these teams, there will be 5 sailors who are very high-level athletes, and they pretty much do the job of what used to be maybe 3 people on the old boats that were crowded. The boats there's 7 boats, perfectly identical. They're actually managed by the circuit itself, not each of the individual teams, and they're all perfectly similar, which means that the difference on the water is because of the people sailing it. Despite that, they keep evolving. Every event we had new novelties on the boat, which made it faster, harder to sail, more exciting. So all the boats the same, but it's still evolving. There's no more flogging sails as we're used to seeing on the usual boats. We now have this big wing, which is almost like an Airbus wing. No more slow drag racing. So we have, as you've seen, these boats seem to float above the water. Reasons for that is that we have foils, which are areas which manage to lift the boat out of the water. There's some lifting areas on the rudders in the back as well. And the second you do that, the second the boat goes out of the water, there's less drag, the boats just drastically accelerate. In fact, last year, quite a few of the boats broke what we call the 50-knot barrier, which is quite fast in terms of sailing, and they're only powered by wind. In some circumstances, these boats can go as much as 3 times as fast as the wind they're receiving. During the race, these boats are getting to within centimeters of each other, so the racing is pretty exciting. There's a maneuver every minute and a half, so just non-stop work. There's virtual boundaries, and there are some rules while you're racing, but in this circuit, they have an underwater umpire, which means that if anyone breaks a rule, there's an immediate penalty. And then there's been some efforts made on the TV footage with some graphics added onto overlays for people who might not understand sailing really well. So all in all, it really is an action-packed circuit.
So even for the best sailors in the world, learning to sail these boats is like asking a F1 driver to fly a plane. Things can go messy very quickly. So that's why we have a safe training platform. And so, yeah, play the clip. So we have up there, basically they built a half boat, full scale, on top of a rotating platform, and that will mimic accelerations like real life. Then they have a full 270-degree screen to maximize immersion, some surround sound, and it's actually as demanding, sometimes even more, than being on the water, because they can sail in there and prepare for, I don't know, 6-8 hours straight. So I got the possibility to go on the boat myself as well, on the simulator, not on a real boat, because I wouldn't be able to go on that real boat. And boy, we were for a ride, crashing a lot. But even in the middle of the chaos, I was able to see what you need to be thinking about and focus on in each position, and makes my job then better, because I can focus on the important parts to get the job done when I do my feedback.
So what is this data revolution about? Well, these F50s are pretty complex boats. There's about 30 parameters that the sailors might play on. We can see here some buttons, some twisting handles, and just a bunch of controls. You can play on the wing, which we've seen previously, the flaps, the lifting foils, take them in and out of the water, changing angles of attacks. And for us number crunchers, data analysts, there's roughly 300 performance variables at 10 Hertz. So one of the major differences with other circuits that we work on is that SailGP, who also controls the stream of that data, has made the choice to make the data available to all the teams at all times. That means that while my boat might be training, I will be staying on land in front of my screens, looking at all the numbers, talking to my coach, but I'll also be looking at David's boat and commenting on how he might have done a maneuver, how his boat is configured, and I can relay that back to my team. So for a lot of people in sailing, this data sharing concept was a little too new, maybe, but I think it worked. By the end of the 5th and last event last year, in 2019 in Marseille, all 6 teams had won at least one regatta during all the events of the year. Having a good number cruncher was really allowing you to close the gap and gain a competitive advantage. So SailGP has made some pretty radical choices from the onset, but I think after last year, we can clearly say that this is a revolution and it's absolutely here to stay.
So to demonstrate our work, let's run a clip of how we were sailing in the first event in Australia last year. So most of these guys have never sailed on this boat except on the simulator. And well, you can see like it's flying, there's a bit of dips, it looks okay. But when we look at the data and compared to the best teams, we're actually far behind. We're actually pretty slow. That's how where we work on the data is that we're able to, it's not like driving a car. Not every person on one control where you're just steering and the wing trimmer on the accelerator and the flight controller get the height of the boat. each sailor is impacting the next person's job. So that's where we try and work on coordinating the crew. We compare to other boats in maneuvers, who's pressing which button at what time, and try and get better. And here's the result. So this is halfway through the season. And the guys with less than 30 days of accumulated training days managed to execute what we can call nearly a perfect foiling jibe, which is one of the hardest maneuvers to execute. And this is thanks to data crunching, making that every small day of training we get that is crucial, we can exploit it to the maximum and get as much out of our trainings, our limited training sessions.
So to finish up, I would say that this revolution is actually far from over. There's still plenty of ideas to carry on shaking things. In 2020, starting next month, the organization has introduced new wings, which means those sails, which means that we will be able to sail in lighter conditions or in heavier conditions. One of the goals that everyone is setting is to be able to do 100% flight time. The gun goes at the start, the boat lifts out the water, and then for 20 minutes it does not drop back again. This is one of our goals. There's also various ideas, rumors of maybe having a Formula One type interaction between the coach and the sailors while they're racing. And if that happens, for sure, that will put a lot of pressure on us to get a lot more data in real time using artificial intelligence, possibly. So we hope this presentation has convinced you that yacht racing is much more exciting than watching grass grow. We really hope that you will come and join us at one of those stops to see the real action. Thank you very much for your attention.